What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and now that we've all gotten the chance to try out the new Overwatch Retribution PvE mode, there's one burning question I, and perhaps many others, have been asking, and that's whether or not Retribution is better than Uprising. So in this video, I'm going to be going over all the goods and bads of both PvE modes to see if Blizzard improved on their mode from last year, or if they've failed to surpass their already very high standards. So without further ado, let's jump right on in. In order to evaluate the two game modes, I'm going to rate them in 4 different categories, being story significance, character development, hero selection, and gameplay quality. First up is story significance. This is the general value that each PvE mission possesses with regards to the greater story and universe of Overwatch. I think it's safe to say that nobody would care about playing something boring such as Torbjorn's weekly trip to the grocery store. So just how important are Uprising and Retribution in comparison? Looking at Uprising first, the main significance of this mission is that it's Overwatch's retaliation to the King's Row Uprising, and also happens to be Tracer's first mission. I'll talk more about Tracer in the character development section, but as for the mission itself, it's really not anything special. The best part about it is that we got a glimpse into what Overwatch was like back in its day, the still functioning headquarters, and the capacity to send out agents on organized missions. However, aside from this look into the past, the mission itself wasn't anything overly significant. Sure, they saved King's Row, but that's really not that big of a deal, especially in comparison to Retribution. Retribution not only exposed the secrets of Blackwatch and served as the catalyst for the eventual fall of Overwatch, but also outlined how many of the current heads of Talon came to power. This mission sheds light onto many of the questions we've had regarding the past, and overall is a significantly more important event in the timeline. It might not tell us everything about the history of Overwatch, Blackwatch, and Talon, but it gave us much more information than Uprising did, which is why I find it safe to say that Retribution wins the category of story significance. Needless to say, we can only hope that Blizzard will find a way to perpetuate this kind of story in future Archives events. Real quick now, before I move on to the next category, I just wanted to remind you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can keep up with all my Overwatch content. Anyways, now let's talk about character development. For this category, I'm sure the winner here is clear without me even having to say anything. Retribution offers extensive development for the 4 main Blackwatch members, especially Reyes. The banter between the 4 Blackwatch agents is priceless, and not only do we get some great humorous moments, but it also serves as a great way to tell us more about both themselves and the story overall. We get a glimpse at how conflicted Reyes is about what is right and what is wrong, and even though his exact reasons for transitioning into Talon still remain a mystery, we see now why he might have chosen to walk that path. Looking even at other Blackwatch members, we see how McCree is starting to clash with the extreme behaviors that Reyes exhibits, which likely foreshadows his own desertion once Blackwatch starts to grow even darker. Genji is depicted as an emotionless, pained weapon who only does as he's told and has none of the positive perspectives he's known for in modern-day Overwatch. As a cyborg, he almost seems more machine than man in this mission, which emphasizes how crucial his eventual relationship with Zenyatta is with regards to him regaining his humanity. And even Moira is shown to be as much of a heartless maniac back then as she is now, which might indicate that she played a significant role in the downfall of Overwatch, and even Reyes' own transition into the evil Talon. By comparison, Uprising has Tracer. We get to see a bit of how she first got her feet wet as an Overwatch agent, but aside from that, it doesn't offer much. Disappointingly, we don't really learn anything new or get any development for Reinhardt, Torbjorn, and Mercy. Sure, all 4 heroes have dialogue banter just like in Retribution, but we really don't learn anything new about them or the story overall from it. It's just more of what we already would expect from them based off of what we knew before the event. So I have to give the character development point to Retribution. Taking a look now at hero selection, this is where things start to play out a little differently. gameplay. In Uprising, you have the choice to play as a different hero from each of the 4 main categories, being offense, defense, tank, and support. While you might not be comfortable on any of the specific 4 available, it at least gives choices from all the main playstyles. Retribution, however, only offers your choice of 3 offense heroes, and then Moira as the support. Now, as I'm sure we're all well aware, the vast majority of players prefer to play DPS, so this might be great for them, but being one of the few tank mains in the world, I have to say that I feel a bit more comfortable being able to lock into Reinhardt and Uprising than testing my luck with anyone in Retribution. While I think I'm perfectly decent as Reaper or McCree, it's still not the same level of comfort as I'd have on any one of the game's 6 tank heroes. I will admit that this may seem a little nitpicky, but even further, I feel like Retribution lacks the clearly defined roles of each team member that are present in Uprising. Reinhardt protects the team and payload, Tracer darts around and focuses the bigger, more threatening enemies, Torbjorn keeps his turret up for its steady output of damage, and Mercy keeps everyone healed up. In Retribution, however, all 3 DPS heroes seem to play fairly interchangeably. They've all got decent damage output, and the only variance seems to be the range at which they engage the enemies. Moira at least is the clear healer of the group, but even still, all 4 of them are fairly equally adept at protecting themselves from special Talon units, and most situations they find themselves in. This perception may just be the result of the currently absent meta for this PvE mode, and maybe over the next couple weeks the community will figure out exactly what each hero must be doing at every point in time, but overall it feels significantly less like you're working together as a team, and more like you're just 4 people with the same objective. I suppose there's a good chance that Blizzard did this on purpose, as having just one uncooperative teammate will be the end of you on higher Uprising difficulties, but nonetheless, there seems to be less room for dynamic teamwork, and overall, I have to give this one to Uprising when it comes to hero selection. Now, of course, there is always All Heroes mode, which lets you choose any team composition your heart could ever want, but I'm not counting that as part of the core PvE game mode. And this now brings us to the final, and in my opinion, greatest category for comparing the 2 PvE missions, and that's gameplay quality. There are a lot of different things to consider here, such as the enemies you face, the layout of the map, and the objectives you must complete. First, let's look at the enemies. Uprising features droves of null sector omnics, robotic foes who, on their own, don't feel that threatening. The only individual null sector units which seem to cause any real concern are the Bastions and OR-14s, although even these pale in comparison to the special Talon units in Retribution. Perhaps my favorite part of the Retribution gameplay is these special units. Not only do they bring back memories of my Left 4 Dead days, but they each pose a threat in unique ways, and consequently, must each be dealt with accordingly. They force you to switch up your gameplay more than Bastions or OR-14s do, and each feel in their own way like you're dealing with a legitimate boss. Well, maybe not the sniper. She just seems way too easy to deal with in my opinion. As for the lesser enemy units, in both modes they feel pretty generic, which isn't a bad thing. The Talon Enforcers seem a bit more interesting than the Null Sector Eradicators, but overall, I think it's Retribution's special units which really stand out. I certainly hope that we see more of them, or similarly unique units, in future PvE modes to come. Moving on now to the map layout, I actually think I prefer King's Row over Rialto. While it's certainly exciting to get a brand new map to play on, especially since it'll one day become part of the standard map pool, overall, I just really liked seeing the redesign of King's Row. The Null Sector tech and fortifications which have been set up make it feel very intense, especially since we are so used to the non-event version of it. I think the war-torn city is just more visually interesting than the Venetian city, and I simply love the idea of being able to redesign the standard maps so drastically for the sake of story and alternative gameplay. This now brings me to the final category of the final category, which is the objectives. And believe it or not, this might be where Retribution falls the flattest. Aside from the initial door breaching, the entire mission consists of simply running from point A to point B. Sure, you need to kill particular units in order to progress, but overall it just feels too simple and too straightforward. Uprising, on the other hand, has you complete a number of different objectives over the course of the mission, starting with capturing a few points before moving on to a payload escort and concluding with a final push into the heart of the power plant. This diversity in objectives not only makes the mode feel more wholesome, but it actually feels like you're on a mission. After fighting your way through multiple encounters, finally killing that last OR-14 feels so satisfying. You and your teammates have come such a long way, and you've finally won. Retribution, on the other hand, severely lacks this kind of satisfactory accomplishment. When I first played it, I legitimately thought there was going to be more once the dropship arrived. It wasn't until we boarded and started to take off that I realized this was everything. No unique climactic boss fight, not even one that's only composed of 4 underwhelming special units. You just stand as long as you can on a rooftop until your ride comes to take you away. To its credit, it fits perfectly with the mission as it is. You're not trying to fight your way into some objective or capture something important, you're literally just trying to escape. And in fact, Jeff Kaplan himself even spoke on Blizzard's specific intent to keep it simple like this. In a Q&A he did during the event pre-showing, he stated that many Uprising players felt that the gameplay was disconnected from the story objectives the 4 heroes were trying to complete. Players went into the mode simply wanting to kill bots, and many disregarded any of the external significance associated with the mission itself. So even though I understand why Blizzard designed Retribution in this way, I personally have to give the gameplay quality category to Uprising. Not only do I find playing the mission itself much more interesting and enjoyable, but also things like the music are just so far superior in Uprising compared to Retribution. I don't know if anything will surpass that epic theme once you finally breach the power plant and have a limited time to push your way in and save the day. That level of grandeur is simply missing in Retribution, and thus, after having played both missions several times over the past few days, I've come to the rather surprising conclusion that Uprising is better than Retribution. While I love the amount of story put into Retribution and the introduction of really cool special enemies, overall, it just doesn't seem quite as fun to actually play as Uprising is. As the 2018 Archives event continues, I think it's safe to say that I'll be finding myself playing more Uprising than Retribution, although both are still amazing modes, and Blizzard, I can't wait to see what more PvE you introduce in the future. And with that, thank you all for watching. Be sure to leave your thoughts about these 2 PvE modes down in the comments below. Do you agree with my verdict, or do you rate them a little differently? Let me know by voting in today's poll card, and otherwise be sure to leave a like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to never miss a future upload. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.